Oh, there we go.
And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this LinkedIn live call. My name is Ilya Ahadi. I specialize in AI and productivity and lead automation. I'd like to introduce you to my awesome guest, Devin Kearns. He's a co-founder of Custom AI Studio, who focuses on AI agents and automation. And so, hi, Devin. Could you please provide a quick introduction of yourself and your
Yeah,
work?
sure, man. Thanks. Yeah, so I co-founded Custom AI Studio about a year and a half ago. Um, and at the time, we were just kind of trying to figure out what our play was going to be in the AI space. We knew it was going to be a paradigm shift. We knew it was going to be a big deal. And we wanted to get involved, but didn't know how at the time. And then I would say just do a bunch of trial and error, trying different things, SaaS products, chatbots, etc. We finally landed on AI agents and have just been super deep in the space, trying to figure out how to make them useful in a business setting, like practically, and figuring out, what are the limitations? Are they actually useful at this moment in time now, or do we have to wait for the technology to evolve later? And we figured out probably about 2-3 months ago that it's ready to go today, and it's just a matter of figuring out how to orchestrate the entire system. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you for that. We'll dive deeper in terms of your work and your company. Where are you located? You are located in Texas.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Austin. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say what you were going to say. Austin, San Antonio area. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So how's the a little bit about your origin story, like what made you get into AI agents, and did it lead you to Texas, or I guess but you can be a little bit agnostic in terms of your location with tech, especially. But what can you tell us a little bit about like your process of starting your company?
Yeah. I mean, I'll go back even further. So
Sure.
I was in New York for a while, and then moved back to Texas. I'm from Texas.
Mhm.
And, I'd run a lead gen company at the time. We were doing cold email systems. And then ChatGPT came out. And prior to that, I had worked for a startup, and they had used a tool or built a tool that was built on the transformer model. And it was using one of the earlier GPTs at the time to schedule calls via email. And it worked pretty cool at the time. It was obviously limited, but it was my first exposure to AI and where the space is at the time. And, I didn't even think about it as anything kind of impressive. I noticed it, thought, okay, this is pretty cool, and then pretty much forgot about it. And then ChatGPT came out, and it was clear that this was a big deal. And probably a week later, I called my co-founder, Andrew, and was like, dude, we have to start an AI company. I don't really know what that means right now, but we have to just try it, like do it, right? So we started, and we were doing a couple chatbots. We were doing like AI automation stuff. And we built a couple of SaaS products as well. And the whole time we were trying to figure out what can we do that's not going to be obsolete in like 6 months.
Yep.
Because, all of these SaaS products were coming out, and then OpenAI would have an update and wipe them all out, right? Like a PDF, like talk to your PDF, that was like, it blew up. And then ChatGPT kind of just gave you the ability to add files and create your own GPTs, and it kind of eliminated the need for that product. So we figured the SaaS model wasn't the right route. It would take too much upfront capital to get going, and we don't know where the space is going in general. Right around when ChatGPT or OpenAI did their like plugins, and Zapier was really involved at the time, that's where it kind of clicked for us that AI would be not this stuck in this kind of LLM chatbot, interaction, but the LLM would have the ability to take actions or be involved in automations. And then shortly after that, the AI agent kind of term took off. And if you look at Google like trends chart, you can see right where it started to go up and to the right. That's what kicked us off on the journey of playing with like AutoGen, Baby AGI, Crew AI, all of them, Relevance AI, some no code platforms, Mind Studio, FlowWise, VoiceFlow, like all of them, right? And then we landed on N8N as kind of our go-to platform to orchestrate these things ultimately.
Awesome. So Okay, so you didn't want to. So with these, I've dove a little bit into AI agents myself. Not as much as you. But say for a beginner, if they wanted to get involved with learning about AI agents, like ChatGPT is, it's not an AI agent so much right now in terms of the automation. But is that a good place to walk us through uh, an introduction of how like a person can start using AI agents? Maybe it is like there's some use case in ChatGPT that I don't know of, but at least from what I understand, it's more of just a chat bot with ChatGPT. They don't do like a lot of like processing of besides just text of your needs. Yeah. So what would that look like for a beginner to,
Yeah.
even at a high level, like at a like elementary level, and then we can dive deeper in terms of like, oh, somebody wants to be like you and building a AI agent agency.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say from a 30,000 foot view, just to understand what agents are,
Mhm.
you know, in today's world, like you can build an automation to do a lot of things, and
Mhm.
you would do it kind of step by step. You would have conditional statements. Um, but an agent is a little bit different where all you need to do is give it the tools that it needs to execute a workflow,
Mhm.
but then provide the instructions of what that workflow is and how to execute and the prompt.
Mhm.
Instead of like creating it step by step, you're almost explaining the steps, putting it in the prompt, and then just giving the agent the tools. So I like to think about it where the LLM is kind of the brain. And if
Mhm.
it's like a brain, it can't do anything. It's just a brain. And then you give it ChatGPT, you give it a chatbot ability. So you give it like a mouth, right? And like ears, I guess. And so it can talk back and forth, but it can't do anything, right?
Yeah.
And then you have agents, or you turn it into an agent by giving it the ability to do function calls and execute, automations or do API endpoints or whatever, right? Call webhooks, do a bunch of things online, within your tech stack.
Mhm.
And that's where you give it kind of like the arms and the legs and you give it the ability to like do things, right? And then you can extrapolate that out where it's like, okay, well, humans themselves build tools like hammers and drills to augment their current ability. The same thing is happening with agents. We give it more and more tools to give it more and more ability, right?
Mhm.
And obviously, the more brain capacity you have, as a person, the more you can do, right? The more you can handle. So as the models get better, the more these agents will be able to do, right? Uh,
Mhm.
so just that from a high level, an agent is just kind of an LLM that has the ability to take various actions, right? Do function calls. If I were to
Mhm.
start building agents today, I would get comfortable with N8N. To me, that's the best agent builder and the most flexible. It's also very visual, so it's easy to see like what's going on. It also
Mhm.
allows you to build your own tools inside of N8N as like automated workflows. And so you can build an automated workflow that's like send an email, and then you can attach that send an email tool to an agent, right? And then tell the
Mhm.
agent, whatever you need to send an email, call this tool. Um, so I would get comfortable with N8N. I would get comfortable with APIs, webhooks, and then and I would also get pretty good at prompting. Then there's a
Mhm.
whole component of like the data side, but we can get into that a little bit later.
Sure. Yeah, so like would you say like a person needs to be like fairly technical? I mean, digitally literate, sure, but it's you don't really need to code, right? It's more about like understanding like how like workflows connect to each other more so, and using different tools like for those like I guess in it what's the tool name again? In it? How do you
In
say it?
N8N.
In8n. Okay, in8n. So is that like it probably has integrations with other
Yeah.
tools like so like would so I guess you need to be fairly technically savvy even if you're not coding much like to navigate these different tools. Is that about right?
Well, if you know how to use Zapier and Make, then you
Mm.
could pick it up pretty easily. It's a very
Mm.
similar system. Yeah.
I see. I see. Um, and so what do people get wrong about, or another way to ask is like what is the people's biggest pain point? Well, let's just adjust the first question. What do people usually get wrong about learning about AI agents?
Yeah.
Like, what do you see from your clients?
So two main things. The first is people still, I mean, doing automations is still like somewhat advanced. Like not even everybody is aware of what you can do with just, Zapier automations, Make automations, and A2N automations, first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
The people who do understand automations are kind of locked in this automation building mode where, like a lot of the things that we do with agents today can be done with a straight automation with like AI, like LLMs trickled in there for like some reasoning and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and generating content or manipulating data, whatever it is. Agents are different than automations because, like I said before, like you explain the workflow in the prompt and you just give it the tools. You're not setting up the automation to go step by step and if this, then that. It makes it really flexible because you're naturally telling it what to do as if it were, a low skill employee or something, or a recent college grad who doesn't have the skill set of your company yet, or needs to be trained and ramped up and onboarded, right? So during that process, you're telling them exactly what they need to do. You're telling them where to access the data, right? And then you're letting them go, right? And then, there's guardrails on what their role is. So the same goes with agents. I would be thinking about agents as like an intern that needs to get trained up rather than an automation. So that's the first point.
Mm-hmm.
The second is the deterministic expectation. So agents are LLMs, right? They're powered by LLMs, and LLMs obviously hallucinate. And it's gotten to a point now where it's really only 2-3% of the time it might hallucinate if it's like something complex. You kind of have to bake that in with agents, at least today. And at times that can cause issues. If something needs to be super deterministic, then maybe an agent isn't the best place for this yet. And so we use automation in conjunction with agents to account for that. But the same thing is like thinking about it as an intern. There's human error that's involved with humans, so kind of bake in a little bit of LLM error when you're playing with agents, right? And then if you go into it with that understanding, then you know where you should place them and where you shouldn't place them.
But even so, like the hallucination you're saying is like just like around 2%. That's still very low, right?
Yeah.
In terms of the outputs. So okay, let's dive into let's dive into productivity itself. That as the title of this event is how AI agents will 10x your team's productivity. What would that look like? Can you give us some use cases of how AI agents will affect productivity?
Yeah. So like let's say that you're running an agency and you have 50 clients and they're all messaging you on Slack or ClickUp, whatever your portal is. All of that conversation history, along with like if you're working on projects, all of that project history that's associated with the client, that can all be fed into a specific database, vector database, and then you can attach an agent to it. And that would allow your clients or your customer success manager or your project manager to easily be able to kind of figure out what's going on with this client in particular, right? And you can set up different buckets and permissioning to make sure that only the right information goes to the right person. But that's one like really easy use case where like, people are saying, like a client says, hey, can you send me that PDF again? And it's in the same email chain, that they're asking on, right? And so like little stuff like that, we can cut away easily with agents. Other things are like, sales is a pretty easy one. Re-engagement. Let's say you want to set up a lead nurturing campaign. You wish you had an SDR that can go through your entire HubSpot contact list, try to find people who haven't been contacted in a while and send them like a personalized note, right? And then maybe even more than personalized, it's, hey, I have this information on you. It seems like this product that we have, this low ticket offer that we have would be a good fit for you based on like the enriched data that we were able to get.
Yeah.
I'm going to send that over to you. Hey, I thought this would be interesting to you. We haven't talked in a while, right? An agent can do all of that work, re-engagement, nurturing. And then when they respond, it can do a little bit of qualification, right? It's not going to be as good as a person at this point, but it'll at least kind of get people the information that they need when they come in and ask. And then it'll kick it to whoever needs to handle it if it needs to kick it, right? So, a lot of it is like enhancing the productivity of like an existing role. A lot of it is also spinning up new campaigns for things that you want to do, right? Like, oh man, I really want to do podcasts, but we need to set up a campaign where I reach out to various different podcasts and try to get booked, right?
Yeah.
Just have an agent go and reach out, right? Go search the internet, find the podcast based on your parameters, find the email address and email them, right? And then actually book it, right, based on your calendar. You know, and I think it becomes clear when you start to think like, oh, you know, jobs are going to go away and what are people going to do and all of that. But if you think about it in terms of, okay, every hour we save is, you know, $30 that we're saving, that starts to add up. All of a sudden the business has way more cash flow, better margins, and they invest more money in the people because they know that the people are going to be 3 times, you know, more revenue per person than they were before with the agents. So, you know, people are concerned about jobs right now, but there might be a little transition period, but I think it's going to explode once, you know, once AI actually like really hits the economy, right?
Yeah.
In a direct way. I think it's going to be, you know, it's going to be an explosion essentially.
Yeah. I mean, it's already, you know, at some level, you know, like if you're a corporate worker, like, you know, entire departments have been cut just from whether they say it's from AI or just efficiency, you know, however you want to call it. It's definitely the year of, or the times of efficiency. And so, okay, so let's talk about content creation and LinkedIn, since, you know, a lot of people are on LinkedIn, and and you mentioned about like personalized messaging, you know, like is there like a lot of like AI agent tools like for the content creation process, from like posting to commenting to DMing to calendar bookings? Honestly, I know some of the tools, but I'd like to hear from you in terms of your expertise. Like, you know, like what have you seen that has worked for you in your business? If there is a lot of AI agent type of tools on LinkedIn, maybe not, but love to hear your perspective.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about the agents is they're flexible. Like if you need them to comment, they'll comment. If you need them to send messages and make connections and talk in the DMs, like they can do that. If you need them to create content, it can do that, right? And then it's just a matter of the prompt. There's a couple of APIs that we use to humanize any content that's being created. You know, and then we do it with a checker. And if it's above zero as in like 0% AI detected, if it's above that, we send it back to the humanizer. It recreates it, and then we just keep checking it until it's, you know, 100% human. And then it's like, you know, pretty solid at that point. You know, even though I'm a big AI guy, there's still things that I don't let it touch. Like I don't let it create any content of mine. I don't let it comment, and I don't let it DM at this point. Maybe that'll change in the future, but for right now, like, you know, it's not going to be as good as me. It just plain isn't. And, you know, what I've done is like, I've taken all my emails and I put it in a database and taught it how to write like me. And it writes really, really well. But I still enjoy like the creation part of it myself. So.
All good. I use like, or at least for the content stuff, like I use like Supergrow a little bit, for like the 80-20 rule, creating a draft. And then of course you need the humanizer, put in the human touch, which is where, you know, like you have to come in or I come in. So I know you're on we have about like 10 minutes left. So if anybody in the audience does have a question for Devin, please comment and we'll look to answer it. So Devin, I know you are on YouTube as well. So like, what are some of the like, I guess, like, what are the differences you see like with the AI crowd on LinkedIn and YouTube? Is there any noticeable differences with the, and maybe on other platforms too, but I just know you're on YouTube as well. What do you see like with the differences of AI and social media platforms?
Well, I mean, YouTube has more reach in general. But in terms of specific audience, I think YouTube audiences are a little bit more interested in obviously longer form content, but also, you know, tutorials, how-tos, like guidance on how to get involved, right?
Mhm.
LinkedIn, I think, is more passing along information. That's not like tutorial based, not like take action, right? Like people who are like on LinkedIn, in my opinion, like if you're on LinkedIn and you're scrolling through the feed, you're not going to see a tutorial and then all of a sudden fire up, whatever platform and follow the tutorial off of LinkedIn. Like I've never done that. I don't know if anybody else does that, but I know people do it with YouTube. So for me, LinkedIn is more of like, hey, this is something that we've an insight that we've uncovered through working with a bunch of clients and building a bunch of agents. Like, this is a concept, this is a framework, this is an idea. Go check out the YouTube if you want more, nuts and bolts on how to do it, right?
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. I mean, yeah, it's more like I think LinkedIn. I mean, I'm on YouTube as well, just like more passively content delivery system,
Yeah.
like with this podcast, for example. But in terms of the engagement, that's like that seems where LinkedIn is more suited for. I don't know how it is with X and Threads, but in terms of like business engagement, LinkedIn is definitely great with that. And so just a person just had a comment, but it wasn't a question, but thank you for that, Puveen. So coming back to AI agents is like, what do you see? I know you touched on it a little bit right now, but what do you see as like the next, let's say the next year to 5 years of what's going to happen, what you think is going to happen with AI agents and productivity?
Yeah. So I think generally from a high level, I think 2025 will be the first year that AI like truly registers on the economy, not just the stock market. And because people use ChatGPT every day to help do their jobs. They're just not, it's not embedded into their systems, right?
Yeah.
So ChatGPT is obviously useful, but it's stuck in the chatbot interface. Right now, we can take it anywhere. So I think more and more people will hop on that train. And I think in 2025, we'll see tons of case studies, tons of just transformations in general. And that'll lead to more companies hopping on the bandwagon and doing the exact same thing, right? So I think 2025 is going to be the huge year for AI agents, AI in general. And then what's going to start to happen, and what's already happening with my company and others who are involved in this, is designing structures for how to build scalable AI systems, all the way from the data layer to custom workflows, right? And everything in between. And when you start playing with these, you realize that the structure and the architecture of the agents actually matters a lot, especially if you plan to scale it over time, or you want to spin up a new workflow or make a little change to something, right? Because these aren't hard automations, you can make that change. And if you structure it correctly, it'll be easy to reflect in the workflows later on. Like it'll reverberate through the system in a nice, seamless way where you don't have to go in and change out this thing and that thing and this thing and reorchestrate your automation just because you made a little change, right? So yeah, I basically see a bunch of people trying to use AI next year, and then out of all of that interaction and all of that data and all of that throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, we'll come out of it with very clear ideas on how to build top to bottom AI agent systems that will just be kind of the new norm for business ops, right? 5 years, I have no idea.
Yeah, 5 years is especially in the world of tech and with AI. I mean, who knows? That's it's like, I mean, well, I guess people know. It's just there's going to be a lot of innovation, especially with that regard. Do you think we'll get to that singularity? I think some people are saying, or AGI, OpenAI is really pushing on that. So, what are your thoughts on artificial general intelligence?
I mean, AGI, I think there's an argument to be made that we're already there. I think definitely next year we get it. But artificial super intelligence, that's an interesting one because I think the only limitation is going to be the input resources. If we have enough energy, if the agents have enough resources to do the things that they need to do, and we're constantly giving it more resources, then the outputs will be incredible. I think it's only going to be a limit on the resources that we can give it. Similar to countries today, you have to get resources in order to catalyze growth in your economy, and without those resources, there's no growth, which is why empires are constantly expanding. I think the same is going to have to be the same model is going to have to fit with AI as well.
And so what do you like? What is a AI agent use case that you wish could be done today? I mean, it's to be innovated in the future. But what is your biggest pain point with AI agents?
Yeah,
your clients.
Yeah,
your clients. Mm-hmm.
I would say that the biggest pain point is probably, the feedback and the learning. Doing it on the AI agent layer is pretty difficult because it's more about updating the database, but then also updating the prompt. It's not like there's reinforcement learning because it's a model, and there's a neural net happening where it's learning over time and making associations over time. That's probably like the biggest limitation that I wish it was easier to kind of teach these things as they're going, right? It's not like some kind of manual process. I mean, we can have agents kind of do quality control and update them, but still it can be babies teaching babies if you don't have the right data, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's always about the data sources. And so I know we talked a little bit about your expertise, but tell us what you offer and your company offer to prospective clients or customers.
Yeah, so we just kind of soft launched a community, and I'm working on a bunch of like tutorial videos. It'll be innate and bootcamp. Vector databases, kind of covering all the bases, AI agent basics. And then once I have that kind of foundation of tutorials there, then I'll start to just kind of add more tutorial videos that are a little bit more advanced. So that'll kind of cover the education piece that people are asking for. Mm-hmm. And then now, like, we obviously run an agency, right? So we've worked on dozens of projects where it's anything from kind of a, SEO content generator, that kind of like, an SEO content generator, you can go find that online, but how is it going to pull from the Google Sheet that you work off of and add back to that Google Sheet, and then also, take a couple of other actions, right? So we built something like that that's super simple, and then stuff that's more complex where we're kind of automating an entire business almost, where, this guy does risk analysis and he puts together these really detailed, comprehensive reports of, potential risk that you might see based on a contract. And he's talking about how do we just like automate this as much as possible? Well, we collect all the data. We attach that data to various different agents. We have those agents work with each other to output a comprehensive report at the end. And then we're doing, one level above, we're doing entire transformations now, which is a little bit experimental, but, more of a consultative approach where we interview the company, we do client interviews, we figure out the details of the workflow. And then we do a proposal of, okay, this is how, if you were going to take an AI first approach to your business, this is exactly how it would look. We don't necessarily have to do all of that. There's other things that we can do, or we can bolt on agents to your existing kind of workflows, and you'll still see a ton of productivity gains. But, at least like this is how it would look if AI agents existed when you first started your business. This is how it would look today. And those are kind of the projects that, we're most excited about, because we think it could have the biggest impact in general, right? So yeah, I mean, we're trying to hit kind of the whole layer, right? Like education for people who want to get involved. We'll also have an AI agent shop in our community where you can kind of get our workflows, and there's implementation steps where you can go and implement into your own business with your own Innate account. All the way to done for you, like agency services, all the way to like, consultation with larger companies doing full transformations.
Very cool. That sounds like a lot of cool projects in the works. So we're about at time. So just to wrap up really quickly with some two quick questions. So like, what would you say like is one quick takeaway or major takeaway for advising people on how to get started with AI agents? Thoughts there?
ChatGPT and YouTube. I mean, that's what I did. So, it should work for you if you have the focus and, you put in a couple hours a day, whatever time you have to just kind of learning it. I would start with a use case for yourself, build that out. And then once you build that out, you'll have a good foundation to go and build other things.
Awesome. And then, and so the last question is, where's the best place to connect with you? It could be on LinkedIn, it could be at your website. So, for your prospective customers.
I would go to my LinkedIn, connect with me there, go to YouTube, subscribe. And then I also have a link to the community if you want to add that somewhere.
Yeah, you can put that in the event or at least the comment, and that'll be great.
Okay. Yeah, let me do that.
Well, awesome, Devin. Thanks so much for your time. It was a pleasure. And until next time, thank you all who attended. And this event is recorded to view anytime after. So thank you all.
Awesome, man. Thanks for the time.
All right. Take care.
Cheers.